Hey everyone, this is Crazyhouse, and I want to talk about a very important subject, a subject that I've been talking about ever since I first started doing commentary videos way back in 2011 on YouTube, is basically the mistreatment of animators and the mistreatment coming in the form of underpaying these animators. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, folks, and most specifically a story that I read about Netflix and how they're underpaying the studios and the animation teams that work on their exclusive animation. So that's what we're going to talk about today, folks. I hope you stick here with me. Before I talk about that, just let me say, if you want to support the channel, go to my online store. My coloring books, comic books, stickers, and posters are available there for you to purchase, and I will provide the links for my store in the comment section as well as the description box. Another great way to support the channel is to go ahead and become a Patreon of Chris Crazyhouse. I now have 3 tiers up there. Those who want just my exclusive coloring pages could go on 1 tier for $5 a month. Those who want my clip art can join that for $8 a month. And those who want assets for creating games and 2D animation can go and get that for $10 a month. So go to my Patreon and you can click on whichever tier you want. Anything that you give will be definitely appreciated. So I'll provide the links for that as well in the description box as well as the comment section. And as always, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you like this video and make sure you share it with someone of like mind or someone who's even thinking about getting into the animation industry, because they need to know this. Okay, so the story that I'm reading off of comes from CBR.com, but I've seen it all over, and it's actually starting to make the rounds amongst other YouTubers like myself who talk about these types of subjects and the behind the scenes that go on with animation. But, you know, when Netflix first started out, you know, they started out just giving out their movies, or you can get their movies in like a little mailing service, but then they moved on to streaming. And when they first started streaming, all they could show was content from other studios, right? But as time went on, Netflix started building up and they started creating their own content. Now they started with just their movies, but now they make a lot of their own animated content as well. In fact, if you're on any type of job website for animation, you'll see Netflix advertising for animators and artists and whatnot. But what a lot of people don't understand how the industry works is they subcontract a lot of their animation work to smaller studios, especially when it comes to doing their own version of anime or Japanese animation. And you know, it's almost kind of a misnomer, because a lot of the animation that they get is not just coming out of Japan. They got people in Korea, the Philippines, and different parts of Europe and South America doing this animation as well. But you know, it looks like anime, and that's what attracts the viewers to come watch it, right? So they have a lot going on here when it goes to creating their own content. And the sad thing is, to me, is that a company like Netflix, which was so revolutionary in how we watch movies nowadays, because they pretty much changed the entire game of how movies are presented nowadays, right? It was, you had to go to a movie theater, and then you had to wait like 6 or 7 months, and then the movie would come out on DVD or whatever, right? Now it's a whole new game, especially after the pandemic. A lot of these streaming services had to, you know, get their act together, but Netflix was ahead of the game as far as being a streaming service, and they already had the content there and the viewership, and people were already jumping on to watch what was on Netflix. They even have original series that have become popular that people watch and review. But to go from being, you know, an innovator in that regard, but not be an innovator in how you pay the people who are working for you, I think that's very despicable, and it's a blemish on what you could accomplish. Because Netflix, if you're going to be the leader in these streaming services, right, why not be the leader in giving artists fair pay? Why not be the leader in making compensation something that an artist can have a living wage with, right? Why not do that? But instead, you're using the same draconian practices that a lot of these studios have been using to take advantage of someone's talent to create content for you, and you can't even give these people a living wage so that they can survive. And like I said, I know a lot about this because most of my career, as far as animation goes, has been in this way, as far as being a subcontractor. So I'm not going to say it's all bad, because in my opinion, I've worked on some projects that have worked out for me and I've gotten paid pretty well. So a great example of this is I work for a studio in San Francisco that we produced some mobile games, and they were subcontracting to Google Play, and Google paid them and then they paid me. I got paid pretty well in that regard. Okay, so that I can't say anything bad about subcontracting through Google. Maybe someone has a horror story about that, but as far as me doing that, I got paid pretty well. Another project that I worked on where I got paid pretty well was through Disney's theme parks, because I worked on an animation that was shown for a corporate presentation at Disney's theme park, and I got paid pretty well in that regard. So this was pre-pandemic Disney theme park, so I don't know how they even have money to do that nowadays, but back then, 2015, 2016, I got paid pretty well through them. Now, as far as what I understand with Netflix, I've never worked for them, but from what I hear, it's not good. So if you're a studio who is hired by Netflix to produce some parts of animation or an animated series for them, you're not going to be getting paid well. From what I hear, there's people who are not getting living wages. There are people getting paid below minimum wage. And to me, that's horrible. And they think, in their mindset, I think that they believe that, well, if we go to a different country, like the Philippines or Korea or Malaysia or whatever, then we're just going to get that labor cheaper. But if those people are complaining about not getting minimum wage, you know it must be bad here. I doubt there's any studios here that will produce anything for Netflix. It might be one of those studios that kind of like did for that Invincible show on Amazon Prime, where they just come up with the character designs and the story list or whatever, and the storyboards, and do the voice acting here, but the animation is produced somewhere else. And you see that a lot in the animation industry nowadays, especially when it comes to 2D animation. They don't want to pay 2D animators. I don't know why. It's like seen as taboo if you have a 2D animator that has a job where he can support his family and have a home and be okay. Most 2D animators are like me, where we're doing other things as well. We're not just doing animation, because we wouldn't be able to support ourselves that way. That's why your boy Chris Crazyhouse does children's books, coloring books, and everything else, and gets work doing artwork for other people, because just being an animator wouldn't do it. Okay, and that's a shame, because animation is such a time-consuming art. You really can't do anything else while you're doing it. So it's a shame that they take advantage of animators in that way, because when you're working on animation, you got to be kind of zeroed in to what you're working on. You can't be concerned about what's going on around you. So I think that's where the problem comes in, because when the animator is zeroed in and just working hard, they're not thinking about what's going on around them. And then by the time the project is done, these companies just kind of cast them aside, or they give them a little measly paycheck here or there, and they're like, I just spent days or months or whatever working on this project, and I put in overtime, and I'm not being compensated for that time. I can't have a family life. I can't have friends. I can't pay for barely any good food in my refrigerator. What's going on? And that's where a lot of animators get very, dejected and don't want to even do this anymore. They want them hating what they originally loved about getting into this industry in the first place. And it's a shame to see that, right? But Netflix, like, why? To me, it's just it's disgusting to see that. It actually makes me angry when I see these types of stories. I'm glad that I'm not dependent on this type of work, because I don't know what I would do if I was stuck in a situation where I have a home and a family. I'm depending on a check from Netflix, right? That'd be really bad. So I'm glad that I found other ways to make a living where I don't have to completely depend on just animation to survive. And I think that is a great lesson for a lot of young artists out there to learn, that if you think that when you get out of school for animation, it might not be the only thing that you wind up doing in order to survive, okay? Or the particular type of animation, if you think you're just going to work on animation for TV or for film, that is project by project basis. That does not mean you'll have a regular job. So you may want to cultivate some other skills so that way you'll have other means of employment as time goes on, okay? Same thing goes for the world of video games or any other type of games, whether it be for a console, mobile, or online as well. You know, that's also project by project basis. Unless you wind up being like the higher upper echelons of some team like Blizzard or something like that, then maybe you'll have somewhat of a regular job. But other than that, you're just going to be a work for hire type situation. And I've already told you how they treat animators in these other countries. So if you think you're going to go there to like Japan or Korea, you're not going to get treated any better there. In fact, you get treated actually worse. The cost of living is ridiculous, and they're not paying you based on the cost of living. That's why so many animators in Japan have to have several roommates just to survive. Okay, it's a shame that they treat people like this, because like I said, animation is such a time-consuming thing. Sitting there drawing one drawing after the other, you're making something that people watch and looks cool. These animation studios, the heads and people like the heads of Netflix, they're making bank. They're making lots of money nowadays. Lots of money's pouring in, but it's not trickling down to the animators, and they're the ones that are actually creating the content. Think about that anytime if you have these dreams of getting into animation, okay? Because I'm the one of the few that's going to tell you the truth about this industry and what can happen to you. And a lot of people are just kind of selling you on dreams of what you can be and what you can do. But just understand that there's a reality out there that you have to be prepared for. Anyway, guys, this is Chris Crazyhouse, and I will post a link to the story in the description box so you guys can go check it out for yourselves. And I would advise you to do some more research on it for yourselves. Anyway, Chris Crazyhouse signing out. Peace.